Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to cut and sew a female shirt. If this is something you'd like to know more about, please keep on watching. And let's begin. I'll be drafting out on paper first before transferring to my fabric because I'm making use of a lightweight fabric. So the first thing I did was to mark 3 inches from the edge of my paper. That will be for my button placket. I'm going to mark 3 inches there. Then I'll connect that to the down part of my paper. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to fold the paper on the 3 inches mark. I'm going to fold it in like that. So my measurements will be starting from that point. So that is my shoulder line there. So I'm going to input my vertical measurements, my chest line, my waist line, and the length of my shirts. And I'm going to connect that with a straight ruler. So I'm going to label my lines. That is my chest line, my waist line, and my shirt length. So I placed half of my shoulder measurements on the shoulder line and on the chest line. Then I connected that with a straight ruler. The next thing I did was to place my neck width, which is 3 inches, and my neck depth, which is 3 inches. Then I'll connect that with my curved ruler. Then the next thing I did was to come down 1 inch from my shoulder line. Then I connected to the neck width to form my shoulder slant. Then the next thing I did was to find the midpoint of my armhole. Then I came in by 0.5 inches. Then I'll connect that with my armhole curve. On the chest line, I placed 1/4 of my bust circumference plus 1 inch for ease. This is ease allowance, not side seam allowance. Then I added 1 inch for my side seam because I really want my shirts to be free. And on the waist circumference, I added my waist circumference, 1/4 of my waist circumference plus 1 inch for ease. Then I added 1 inch side seam allowance as well. And same thing on the hem of my shirt. I placed my hip circumference, 1/4 of my hip circumference plus 1 inch for ease. Then I added 1 inch side seam allowance. So I'm going to connect the lines now. Then this is my seam allowance. I came up by 2 inches from the hem of my shirt just to give it a shape around there. I want that place to be a little bit curvy like this. Then I'll connect it to the line. So that is all for my front pattern. Then I'm just going to extend. I'm going to extend that line like that. Then I'll cut out. That is all for my front pattern. So I'll be cutting out the back pattern now. All I did was to place my front pattern on the back pattern, making sure the button allowance is still on fold. And I'm just going to pin down my front pattern to the back pattern. The difference between my front and back pattern is the back neck depth is 1 inch. So I'm just going to mark my back neck depth, which is 1 inch. And I'll connect that to the neck width like that. So I'm just going to cut that out. So I'm going to label my pattern now. This is my front and this is my back. My back will be on fold. So I've gone ahead to transfer my pattern onto the fabric, as you can see. So I cut out 2 pieces for my front pattern. I opened out the boxing plackets. Then I added 1/2 inch allowance to the neckline, armhole, and I added hemming allowance as well. And on the back pattern is on fold. That side is on fold. And I added my 1/2 inch allowance to the neckline, shoulder line, and to the armhole. Then I added my hemming allowance as well. So I'm going to remove the pattern from my fabric. Then I'll be adding interfacing to the button placket area, the wrong side of the button placket. So this is it. I've gone ahead to add my interfacing to the wrong side of the button plackets. Then I fold it in 1 inch twice. I iron that down. I fold my button placket 1 inch twice. So all I'm going to do now is to make a stitch on that point, like that. I'm going to stitch down my button plackets. I'll do the same thing for the second side as well. I've added my interfacing as well, so I'll make a stitch there. So this is it. I've gone ahead to stitch down my button placket here. All I'll do now is to join my front and back by the shoulders. I'm going to place them right side facing each other. Then I'll join it with my 1/2 inch allowance. I'll join my shoulders. So this is it after I was done joining the shoulders. So the next thing I'll do is to join my side with my 1 inch allowance. So this is it. I've gone ahead to join my side with my 1 inch allowance. So I'll be working on the collar now. What I'll do is to fold in my button plackets 1 inch twice. I'm going to fold that in like that. I'll be folding it twice, 1 inch twice. After folding it twice, I will be left with 1 inch there. That is the space for my button. So all I'll do now is to measure around my front neckline. Like you see me doing, I'm going to measure around my front neckline plus the 1 inch allowance there, plus the 1 inch button allowance. I had 6.75 inches for my front neckline. So I'll measure around my back neckline as well. I had 3.75 inches for my back neckline. What I'll do is to add the value, the front and the back neckline. I'll add this together. So my front and back neckline is 10.5. So all I did next was to get a fresh pattern paper. Then I just rule a starting line like that. So from the starting line, I came up by 1 inch like that. Then I'll connect that. So from the edge of my paper, I'm going to mark my 10.5. That is my front and back neckline like that. 10.5. Then I'll connect that. So from the edge of my paper, I placed my back neckline, which is 3.75 on both sides of the line. Then I marked 1/2 inch upward from the bottom line, then 1/2 inch upward from the upper line as well, like that. Then I'm going to connect that to my back neckline with a slight curve. Then I'll connect the upper line as well to the back neckline. So that is all for my collar stand. Then I'm going to cut out now. So I'll be cutting that on fold. That side will be on fold. Then I draw an arrow there to indicate my upper side. So to cut my main collar now, all I did was to place my collar stand on a paper. Then I'll pin that down. So I'm going to trace out the top part of my collar like that. So I want the height of my collar to be 2.5. So I just marked 2.5 inches there. I followed the line like that. Then I'm going to draw a slanted line like this. So I came in by 1 inch from my collar stand like that. The 1 inch is for my button allowance. Then I measured what I have left there from the center fold up to that mark. Then I placed it at the top line there. Then I'll connect that with my ruler. On the top line there, I marked 2 inches. From that line there, I marked 2 inches outward like that. Then I'll connect it back into that point like that. So that is all for my main collar. I'll be cutting that on fold as well. I'll be cutting on fold. So I'm going to remove my collar stand now. So I'll be cutting out now. So to cut my collar now, I'll be placing my fabric in a bias form. So I'll be placing my pattern on it. I'll be cutting it on fold. I'll place my pattern on it like that. Then I'll pin it down. I'll be cutting it on fold. Then I'll be adding 1/2 inch allowance round the pattern. It's only the center that is on fold. I'll be cutting 2 of that. One will be serving as a lining, while the other will be the main fabric. So I'll do the same thing for the collar stand as well. I'll place it on fold. And I'll be cutting 2 of that as well. I'm going to add 1/2 inch allowance round the pattern. So this is it. I've gone ahead to add interfacing to the wrong side of my collar. I added interfacing to both sides. So all I'll do now is to place my collar right side facing each other. Then I will stitch it from those points here, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, just follow that 1/2 inch. I'll stop at that point there. So this is it. I've gone ahead to stitch it around. Then I'll just trim off the excess like that. Then I notch the sharp edges around there and I turn it to the right side. So I'll go ahead to iron it. So this is what it looks like after ironing. Then I'll fold it over like this into 2. Then I'm going to notch the midpoint like that. Then I'm going to get my collar stand now. Then I'll remove my pattern. Then I'll notch the upper parts. I'll notch the middle like that. Then I will open it up. I'll be placing the collar in between the fabric and lining of the collar stand. I'll make sure the notched parts are aligning like that. So I'll place it like that. I'm going to pin it down at the midpoint like that. So I'll just pin it down all the way down like that. So I'll go ahead to stitch it like that. I'll stitch it with my 1/2 inch allowance like that. So this is it after I was done stitching. Then I'll notch the sharp edges around there. So I'll flip it to the right side like this. So we are left with the part that is going to go round the neckline. So that is it there. I'm going to give it a good press. So this is it after I was done ironing. So I've gone ahead to fold in my 1/2 inch allowance. I pressed that with my iron. Then I've notched the midpoint as well. So all I'll do now is to join it to the neckline of my shirt. I'm going to fold my shirt as well. Then I'll notch the midpoint of my back neckline as well. So all I'll do now is to place one side of my collar on the wrong side of the shirt. I'm going to pin that down. I'm going to start from the midpoint. I'll pin the midpoint like that. And I'll pin it round the neckline. Then I'll go ahead and stitch it with my 1/2 inch allowance. I'll stitch it like that. So this is it after I was done stitching. So all I'll do now is to fold it over to the right side, and I'll use it to cover my rough edges around there, and I'll stitch it. Then I'll top stitch it like that. I'll stitch it down. So that is all for the collar. You can see how neat it's looking like. So I've gone ahead to hem my down part as well. So the last thing I'm going to do is to fix my sleeve. So you can go ahead to fix the sleeve, any sleeve of your choice. I won't be showing the sleeve parts here. So I've gone ahead to fix my sleeve. So what is left for me is to add my buttons and my buttonhole. I'll be placing my buttonhole on the right side of the shirts, while my buttons will be on the left side of the shirts. I'm going to be placing the buttons about 3.5 inches distance will be between them, like that, and that will be all. We have come to the end of this tutorial. I hope this video has been helpful to you. Please do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.